Hey dolls, it's LaShonda and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making a side U-part wig. Yes, do it yourself, ladies. I'm going to be using this Malaysian wavy hair in a 22, a 24, and two 26s. I'm going to go ahead and co-wash it with my Oregon Oil Moroccan shampoo and conditioner. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Now this hair did get colored, which you will see after I'm done washing it. I had it sent to one of my stylist friends who colored it for me. Didn't get that part on camera, but you guys will see the end results. So this is about my second time making a wig, so it's probably not going to be perfect to some and up to standards, but hey, this works for me, and I promise you, if you follow the steps, you can't go wrong. If you're interested in this hair is from Glamorous Doll Hair Extensions. I will have the link posted down in the description box below. So jumping right into this thing, the first thing we're going to need is a mannequin head. I'm going to be using a styrofoam one because that's what I have. I'm also going to be using this little stand to hold my little styrofoam head still. You're also going to need some of these T-push pins to hold everything in place nice and tight. And I'm going to be using these little wig combs. I'm going to be using these little wig clips so that my wig is nice and tight on my head. I'm also going to use this little white marker just to kind of mark what my part is going to be. I'm going to be using some nylon thread. Nylon is the best thread. And I'm also going to be using this little C-hook needle. You're going to also need a cap. This is the one I like just because it's breathable. I don't really like those stocking cap ones. And like I said, I have about 4 bundles of hair, and you can see that the hair has been colored. So I'm going to place my styrofoam head on my little clamp. This thing is very helpful, you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and take my stocking. You can see I've already marked it where I want my side part to be. And I'm going to take my little T-push pins and go ahead and just kind of clamp down my wig cap so that it stays in place and it don't move around on me. And everything I'm going to be using today, you guys, I got off of Amazon. I'm going to go ahead and thread my needles. I'm going to thread about 3 needles so that I can just keep it pushing. I'm just going to tie a little knot in the end and just kind of cut off the little excess like I have done here. I've already threaded my needle through the width of my tracks, and I am using 2 tracks on the bottom of my wig just so I can make sure I get all 4 bundles in. And as I get to the top, I will break it down to start using 1 track at a time. But for now, I'm using 2 tracks, and I'm just going to go ahead and thread that right through the width. I just kind of like to do that in the beginning to make sure everything is tight and secure. Kind of hard to push that needle through that width, but hey, I promise if you do it this way, the tracks are going nowhere. And I'm just going to kind of do about 3 times, go up under that track onto the cap so that the beginning of this track is nice and tight. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start sewing from there. And to make sure my tracks lay flat, I'm just going to go ahead and take some of those T-push pins that we have and go ahead and pin down my tracks all the way around my mannequin head. Okay guys, I'm going to try to explain what I'm doing the best way I know how. What I am doing is taking the needle and going under the track and sewing it to the cap. And then I'm just going to kind of take the needle through that little loop before I pull it all the way through. Now, it took me a few times to figure out. All I had to do was wrap the thread around the needle and it would be the same thing. But as you can see here, I had to learn the hard way. I am sewing pretty close together because just from previous wigs that I've owned, I noticed that if you give too much space in between where you sew, it tends to kind of ruffle on your head, and I don't like that. I like for the wig to lay very, very flat. So that's why I'm sewing pretty close together, which will take you a little bit more time than, you know, I guess the normal person. But hey, I love for my wig to lay absolutely flat. I don't want people to be able to tell if it's a wig or sewing a whip. And as you can see here, I'm sewing on the bottom right here because I want to be able to pull this wig up on the sides. So as you saw just then, I'll be able to leave a little hair out on the sides and pull my hair back if I like. So I'm just going to keep continuing that step until I have completely finished this wig. And because everything is kind of repetitious, we're going to be speeding through this process a lot. But as you guys can see here where I have pulled up my hair, I will be able to pull it up in the back if I like. I'm also going to cut off all those little extra flaps you see back there. Now that I have reached the end of that track, I'm not going to cut my tracks. I like to use the fold over method just in case I ever need to cut these tracks off of this cap and put them on another cap. I just don't cut them. I'm just going to fold the web over, and I'm just going to start to sew that first track down first. I'm going to sew that one down first because I want to lay this flat. And then I'll take that second flap and sew that one on top of that one, and then I'll just keep going just like I have been doing, as you will see here. Once I have run out of thread, before I start a new needle, I like to just cut off the thread off the needle, the excess thread, and then I'll tie 3 little knots in that extra thread that I have, and then I'll take my scissors and cut off the excess so there will be no thread hanging. And once I'm done with that, I'm just going to use my T-pins and go ahead and pin down my width so I can continue the process. And I'm just going to keep doing this process until I have run out of all of my 26 inches of hair. And then once I get to my 24 inches and my 22 inches, they all will be single widths. And when I get to the end of each track, I'm just going to do just like we did in the beginning. I'm going to sew completely through the width of that track and sew about 3 times in that same spot, and then I'll cut the thread off and I will tie those little knots like I showed you, and this is how it should look all the way around. I apologize for my camera clarity, you guys. It's on autofocus and I don't think it can catch up with me quite fast. But as you'll see here, I'm going to start to sew in closer to that little line because this is where my bang is going to kind of lay. So each time I go around, I'm going to get closer and closer to that little white line. Moving right along, I'm just going to take a track and go ahead and pin down where I want my U-part to be, just because I don't want it to go back too far. So I'm just going to take a track and pin down where I want my U-part to be, and then I'll start sewing from there, as you guys will see here. I have that done, this is where I'm going to start to cut my tracks at. I'm just going to cut my tracks and go ahead and fill in that little empty space we have right in the top. I'm going to repeat this method over and over again until that top spot is completely closed. Now that I completely have that space closed, I am done with my wig. And as you see here, it lays flat. That's why we was cutting our wefts. And I'll also be able to pull it up on the sides and in the back if I like. And those little extra flaps that you see, I'm going to take some scissors and go ahead and cut those off. And this is what my unit looks like, all finished, and this is what it looks like on the inside. Now I'm going to take my scissors and go ahead and cut out my U-part. Now be very careful, ladies, that you don't cut any thread because you don't want anything to unravel on you. So get as close as you can to the tracks without cutting any thread. Now that I have my U-part all carved out, I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors and cut off all those little excess flaps that we had in the front, in the back, and along the sides, as you will see me doing here. And once again, be careful not to cut any thread. We finished that step. The next thing I'm going to do is turn my wig inside out and sew on those little clips that I showed you earlier. I'm going to sew on about 4 of those right along the seams of my U-part, as you will see that I am doing here. And I'm not going to show me sewing on my little combs, but I'm also going to add about 5 or 6 combs all the way around the edges so that I'll be able to stick those underneath my braids so that my wig is nice and secure. As you will see here, I have already added my combs, and I also decided to keep that little flap in the back because it has these little clips on them where I can tighten my wig if I like. I may go in and cut those out later. I don't know, who knows, but this is what it should look like, the wig completely finished. Now, I already have my braid foundation from my previous wigs. This is what it looks like. I'm just going to take my wig and place that on, and I'm going to take those little clamps that we added in the top and clamp those down right on top of my braid. And I'm going to take those combs and stick those combs underneath my braid so that my wig is nice and secure. Then I'm going to part my hair right on the side and go ahead and comb that down and cover up my tracks. And this is what the wig should look like. This is what the wig looks like. I'm so happy that I was able to get all 4 bundles in. I only had a very little bit of hair left, and like I said, this is what I wanted it to look like on the side so that I'll be able to pull my hair back if I like. And this is what it looks like in the top with it all covered up. Yes, and the color, I am so loving it. And like I said, I like for it to lay flat in the top in case I want it to be straightened. So this is what it will look like. That's why we didn't fold over our wigs in the top, we cut them, but the wig came out really great. And this is what it looks like with the wig all nice and curled. I hope you guys found this video very helpful. If you did, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, and I will catch all of you dolls in my next video. Bye dolls.